I always thought our life was a masterpiece, painted with the vibrant hues of love and trust. My name is Daniel, a 38-year-old architect, and my wife, Clara, a 36-year-old art curator, was the muse of my existence. Our Seattle home, a modern glass and wood marvel I designed, stood as a testament to our shared vision. Clara's laughter filled its halls, her hazel eyes sparkling as she'd recount tales from gallery openings. We'd been married 10 years, our bond forged through late-night talks and spontaneous road trips. She was my anchor, my joy. But last spring, a shadow crept in. Clara started staying late at the gallery, her phone buzzing with messages she'd dismiss as work. I noticed her perfume lingered longer. A new scent, jasmine, sharp and unfamiliar. She'd return home distracted, her smile a fraction too tight. I chalked it up to stress. Her latest exhibition was a high-stakes affair, featuring a reclusive artist named Julian Voss. I'd met him once, a wiry man with piercing blue eyes and a handshake too firm. Clara spoke of him with reverence, her words laced with an excitement that felt off. One evening, I found her sketching in her studio, her fingers smudged with charcoal. The drawing was of a man's hand, sinewy and strong, not mine. "Who's this?" I asked, my voice light but my chest tight. She laughed, brushing it off as just a study. But her eyes darted away. That night, as she slept, I lay awake, the silence heavy. I trusted her. Didn't I? Yet, the seed of doubt had been planted, its roots curling into my thoughts. I began to notice her absences, the way she'd tilt her phone screen away, the faint blush when Julian's name came up. I wasn't a jealous man, but the signs piled up like driftwood on a stormy shore. I'd built our life on certainty, but now the foundation felt unsteady. I decided to watch, to wait. Clara was my world, but worlds could crack. I needed to know if hers still included me, or if someone else had claimed a piece of it. The thought gnawed at me, a quiet ache that grew sharper each day. I wasn't ready to confront her. Not yet. But I'd find the truth, no matter how it burned. Life continued, a fragile performance of normalcy. Clara and I still shared coffee on our balcony, the Puget Sound glinting below, but her laughter felt rehearsed. I'd watch her stir sugar into her mug, her fingers, once so familiar, now strangers to me. She'd talk about the gallery, Julian's art, his genius. Each mention of his name was a pinprick, but I smiled, nodding, playing the devoted husband. Inside, I was unraveling. I started digging, subtle at first. I checked her schedule, noting the late nights she claimed were for inventory. One Tuesday, I drove by the gallery after hours. Her car was there, but the windows were dark. My heart thudded as I parked across the street, watching. At 10:17 p.m., she emerged, not alone. Julian was with her, his arm brushing hers as they walked to her car. They didn't kiss, didn't touch, but the air between them crackled with something intimate, something mine. I drove home, my knuckles white on the steering wheel. That night, Clara slipped into bed, her jasmine scent overwhelming. "Long day?" I asked, my voice steady. "Exhausting," she murmured, turning away. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, the image of them together searing my mind. I needed proof, something concrete. The next day, I accessed her laptop while she showered. Her email was a maze of professional jargon, but one thread, buried in a folder labeled miscellaneous, caught my eye. Messages to Julian, innocuous at first, art logistics, exhibition plans. Then, a shift. Can't stop thinking about last night. My stomach lurched. I didn't confront her. Instead, I became a detective in my own marriage. I tracked her location through our shared app, noting discrepancies. I found a receipt in her purse for a cafe I'd never heard of, dated a day she'd said she was at the gallery. Each clue was a brick, building a wall between us. Yet, I played my part, cooked her favorite risotto, kissed her forehead, laughed at her stories. She didn't suspect I was watching, didn't see the storm brewing behind my eyes. Clara thought she was clever, but I was learning her secrets. The betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was a performance, a dance she thought I couldn't see. But I saw every step, and with each one, my love curdled into something darker. I wasn't ready to act, not yet. I needed to understand the depth of her deception, to know how far she'd gone. The truth was coming, and with it, a reckoning. The days blurred into a tense rhythm. Clara's routine was a carefully choreographed lie, and I was her unwitting audience. She'd leave for the gallery with a peck on my cheek, her jasmine perfume trailing like a ghost. I'd wave, smiling, then check her location as soon as she was out of sight. She was good. Her app often showed her at the gallery, but twice it pinged at a loft in Belltown, Julian's studio. The first time I drove there, parking a block away. Her car was outside, the loft's windows glowing. I didn't go in. Couldn't. Not yet. Instead, I deepened my investigation. I bought a small tracker, slipping it into the lining of her purse. It felt like a betrayal of my own values, but her secrets justified it. The tracker confirmed what I feared. Frequent visits to Julian's loft, often late, sometimes when she told me she was with colleagues. I hacked her gallery's security feed, easier than I'd expected with my tech skills, and saw footage of her and Julian in the back office. Their heads bent close, her hand lingering on his arm. It wasn't proof of intimacy, but it was proof of something. I started tailing her discreetly. One night, I followed her to a wine bar downtown. She met Julian, their table tucked in a dim corner. They didn't touch, but their eyes locked in a way that spoke volumes. I watched from across the street, my breath fogging the car window. The pain was visceral, a blade twisting in my gut. Clara, my Clara, was slipping away, her heart tethered to another man. At home, I kept up the facade. I'd ask about her day, listen to her half-truths, and nod as if I believed them. But my mind was elsewhere, plotting. I began researching Julian. He was 42, single, a rising star in the art world with a reputation for charm. His Instagram was a gallery of cryptic posts, paintings, cityscapes, and, once, a photo of Clara at an opening, captioned my muse. The audacity fueled my rage. I didn't confront her because I needed more, not just evidence, but a plan. My love for Clara was a ghost now, replaced by a cold resolve. She thought she could live two lives, but I'd show her the cost of betrayal. I started sketching my revenge, not physical but psychological. A dismantling of her world as meticulously designed as any building I'd ever created. Clara and Julian had made a pact, unspoken but real. I'd break it, and when I did, they'd feel the weight of every lie. My days became a dual existence. The husband Clara saw, warm and oblivious, and the man I hid, a hunter gathering shards of her betrayal. The tracker in her purse painted a damning picture. Trips to Julian's loft, late-night detours to hotels, even a weekend work retreat that pinged in Portland, where Julian had an art show. I cross-referenced her emails, finding coded messages, "Meet me at the usual place," or "Missed you last night." Each discovery was a nail in the coffin of our marriage. I hired a private investigator, a discreet woman named Rachel who specialized in infidelity. She was worth every penny. Within a week, she delivered photos. Clara and Julian at a rooftop bar, their hands intertwined. Clara entering his loft, staying until dawn. A grainy shot of them in an alley, her back against a wall, his face buried in her neck. The images burned into my retina, but I studied them, memorizing every detail. Rachel also dug into Julian's life, debts, a history of fleeting relationships, a penchant for preying on married women. Clara wasn't his first conquest, but she'd be his last. I began to unravel Clara's lies at home. She'd mention a client dinner, but I'd call the gallery, posing as a vendor, and learn she'd left early. She'd claim exhaustion, but her gym bag smelled of jasmine, not sweat. The deception was brazen, yet she underestimated me. I was no longer the trusting architect. I was a man with a purpose. My revenge took shape, a plan as intricate as a cathedral. I'd expose her, not privately, but publicly, in a way that would shatter her career and her lover's reputation. I contacted a journalist, a friend from college, who worked for a local arts magazine. I fed her anonymized tips about Julian's unethical collaborations with curators, hinting at conflicts of interest. I planted seeds on art forums, using burner accounts to question the gallery's integrity. The whispers grew, but Clara remained oblivious, too wrapped up in her secret world. At night, I'd watch her sleep, her face serene, unaware of the storm I was brewing. I felt no guilt. Her betrayal had killed that part of me. She'd chosen Julian, chosen lies, and now she'd face the consequences. I wasn't just protecting myself. I was reclaiming my dignity. The plan wasn't complete, but it was close. I needed one final piece, something undeniable, to ensure her fall was absolute. I'd find it, and when I did, Clara would learn what it meant to betray a man who'd given her everything. The charade was exhausting, but I played it flawlessly. Clara's birthday arrived, a milestone I once would have celebrated with grand gestures. Instead, I cooked her favorite meal, lamb with rosemary, and gifted her a necklace, a delicate silver chain she'd admired months ago. She teared up, hugging me, whispering, "You're too good to me." The irony was a bitter pill. I smiled, but my mind was elsewhere, sifting through Rachel's latest report. A hotel receipt, Clara's signature, 2 guests, 1 night. That evening, she left for a gallery meeting. The tracker showed her at Julian's loft. I followed, parking in an alley, my heart a drumbeat. Through a cracked window, I heard music, laughter. Her laughter, light and unguarded. The kind she hadn't shared with me in months. I didn't need to see them. The sound was enough. I drove home, the city lights blurring through my rage. The next day, I escalated. I accessed Clara's cloud storage, cracking her password, our anniversary, predictably. There, I found photos, intimate, candid shots of her and Julian in his loft, her hair mussed, his arm around her. The betrayal was no longer abstract. It was digital, undeniable. I copied the files, my hands shaking, then deleted the originals to cover my tracks. These weren't just evidence. They were weapons. I refined my revenge. The gallery's next exhibition, Julian's solo show, was in 2 weeks. It was Clara's crowning achievement, her name tied to his. I turned it into her undoing. I leaked more to my journalist friend, suggesting financial impropriety, fake invoices, inflated sales. I sent anonymized photos to a rival curator, hinting at Julian's inappropriate influence. The art world was a viper's nest. The rumors spread like wildfire. Clara came home late, her face flushed. "The show's stressing me out," she said, pouring wine. I nodded, feigning concern. "You'll pull it off," I said, my voice warm, my heart ice. She didn't notice the shift in me, didn't see the man she'd married morphing into her judge. I was done loving her. Now I was orchestrating her ruin. The final piece was close, a public humiliation that would strip her bare. I'd wait for the exhibition, let her bask in her triumph, then pull the rug out. Julian would fall too, his career a casualty of his arrogance. As I lay in bed, Clara's breathing soft beside me, I felt a strange calm. The mask I'd worn was slipping, but hers would shatter first. She'd built a life on lies, but I'd rebuild mine on truth and vengeance. The exhibition loomed, and with it, my moment. Clara's world spun on, oblivious to the scaffolding of my vengeance. Daniel, was no longer just an architect of buildings, but of her downfall. The gallery exhibition loomed, a week away, and I tightened the threads of my plan. Clara was radiant, buzzing with anticipation for Julian's show. She'd prattle about his vision, her eyes alight with a fire that once burned for me. I nodded, poured her wine, and hid the storm in my chest. Each smile I offered was a brick in the wall between us. Rachel, my private investigator, delivered a final bombshell audio. She'd bugged Julian's loft, questionably legal, but I didn't care. The recording was brief but devastating. Clara's voice, soft and intimate, confessing she couldn't imagine life without him. Julian's low chuckle followed, then a pause heavy with unspoken promises. I listened in my car, the city rain streaking the windshield, my hands trembling. The betrayal wasn't just physical. It was a theft of her soul, given freely to another. I weaponized this. I sent the audio, anonymized, to my journalist friend, Lila, with a note. Conflict of interest at the gallery. Dig deeper. Lila was hungry for a scoop, and the art world loved its scandals. I also contacted a tech-savvy acquaintance, Marco, who could manipulate metadata. He planted digital breadcrumbs. Fake emails suggesting Clara and Julian funneled gallery funds for personal use. The accusations wouldn't hold up in court, but they'd spark enough doubt to taint her reputation. At home, Clara was distracted, her phone a constant companion. I caught her texting in the bathroom, the door ajar, her face flushed. "Work?" I asked, leaning casually against the frame. She startled, locking her phone. "Just finalizing show details," she said, her voice too bright. I smiled, but my mind cataloged her lies. The tracker in her purse showed another visit to Julian's loft that night. I didn't follow. I didn't need to. The evidence was a mountain now, and I was ready to bury her beneath it. My revenge wasn't just about exposure. It was about precision. I wanted Clara to feel the weight of her choices, to watch her world crumble in real time. The exhibition would be her stage, and I'd rewrite the script. I lay awake, plotting, as she slept beside me. Her jasmine sent a reminder of her duplicity. The man she'd married was gone, replaced by a strategist. Love had built our life. Betrayal would tear it down. The countdown had begun, and I was ready to light the fuse. The exhibition was 4 days away, and Seattle's art scene buzzed with anticipation. Clara was a whirlwind, coordinating press, curating Julian's garish canvases, unaware of the trap closing around her. I played my part flawlessly, supportive husband, proud of her hustle. I even attended a gallery preview, shaking Julian's hand, my grip firm, my smile ablade. His blue eyes flickered with unease, or maybe I imagined it. Clara beamed, oblivious, her arm brushing his as she guided him to investors. I watched, cataloging every glance, every laugh. Behind the scenes, my plan gained momentum. Lila's article was taking shape, a damning exposé on ethical breaches at the gallery. She'd found my planted emails and the audio, though she didn't know their source. She called me fishing for more, but I played dumb, just a concerned citizen. Meanwhile, Marco hacked the gallery's social media, scheduling a subtle leak for the exhibition's opening. A cryptic post hinting at hidden truths behind Julian's show. The art world thrived on gossip. This would ignite a firestorm. I escalated at home. I accidentally left a browser open on our shared laptop, displaying a search for infidelity signs. Clara saw it, her face paling. "Something wrong?" she asked, her voice tight. I shrugged, feigning embarrassment. "Just reading, for a friend." Her relief was palpable, but the seed was planted. She grew cautious, her lies more elaborate. She claimed a sponsor dinner one night, but the tracker showed her at a hotel with Julian. I didn't confront her. I was biding my time. I met Rachel for a final debrief. She handed me a dossier. Bank records, hotel receipts, even a love letter Clara had written Julian, found in his loft. The letter was a gut punch. "You've shown me what it means to feel alive. I burned it in our backyard, the ashes a promise." Rachel warned me to be careful. The art world was small and Julian had allies. I didn't care. This wasn't about caution. It was about justice. As the exhibition neared, I felt a strange clarity. Clara thought she'd outsmarted me, but she'd underestimated my resolve. I'd loved her fiercely, built a life around her, and she'd traded it for stolen moments. Now I'd trade her pride for my peace. The gallery's glass walls would reflect her shame, and Julian's career would be collateral damage. I wasn't just breaking her heart. I was dismantling her identity. The countdown ticked on, and I was ready to watch her fall. The night before the exhibition, Clara was a bundle of nerves, pacing our living room, muttering about lighting and guest lists. I offered her tea, my voice gentle, my heart a furnace. "You've got this," I said, touching her shoulder. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. I wondered if she sensed the shift in me, the way my warmth had turned performative. Her phone buzzed, Julian, no doubt, but she ignored it, a rare act of restraint. Too late, Clara. Far too late. I finalized my plan in my study, the door locked. Lila's article was set to drop at 10 p.m. tomorrow, mid-exhibition, emailed to every major art critic in the Pacific Northwest. It accused Clara of favoritism, Julian of fraud, and the gallery of financial misconduct. The planted emails and audio were her evidence, framed as whistleblower leaks. Marco's social media hack was timed for 9:30 p.m., a teaser to prime the crowd. I'd also mailed anonymous packets to key investors, containing photos of Clara and Julian, their intimacy undeniable. The gallery's reputation would implode. I considered confronting Clara that night, shattering her before the public did. But no, private pain was too small. I wanted her exposed, her betrayal a spectacle. I imagined her face as the whispers spread, her career unraveling, Julian's smug grin fading. The thought was a cold comfort, but it fueled me. I'd lost her long ago. Now, I'd reclaim my power. I checked the tracker one last time. Clara had slipped out while I was in my study, her car at Julian's loft. I didn't follow. Instead, I poured a whiskey, savoring the burn. The man I'd been trusting, devoted, was a memory. This Daniel was a force, unyielding, precise. I rehearsed my role for tomorrow. The supportive husband, shocked by the revelations, distancing himself from the scandal. Clara would look to me for comfort, and I'd offer none. As dawn approached, I stood on our balcony, the city asleep below. Clara returned at 3 a.m., her footsteps soft, thinking I hadn't noticed. I let her sleep, her dreams undisturbed for one last night. Tomorrow she'd wake to a nightmare of my design. The exhibition was her triumph, but it would be my victory. I wasn't just punishing her. I was rewriting our story, ensuring I'd be the one to walk away whole. The clock ticked, and I was ready to pull the trigger. The exhibition night arrived, a glittering affair in the gallery's sleek space. Clara was a vision in a black dress, her hair swept up, her smile a mask of confidence. I wore a tailored suit, playing the proud husband, my arm around her as we greeted guests. Julian hovered nearby, his paintings, bold slashes of color, dominating the walls. The crowd was electric. Critics, collectors, Seattle's elite. I shook hands, laughed, and watched the clock. At 9:15 p.m., the first ripple hit. A critic checked her phone, her brow furrowing. Whispers spread as others followed suit. Marco's hack had worked. The gallery's Instagram posted a cryptic image of Clara and Julian, too close, with the caption, "Art or affair?" Guests glanced at Clara, who was obliviously charming a collector. Julian, across the room, looked uneasy, his eyes darting to his phone. I sipped my champagne, my pulse steady. At 9:30, Lila's article went live. Phones buzzed like a swarm. A hush fell as guests read the headline, "Scandal at Summit Gallery. Curator's affair taints star artist's show." The accusations were brutal: financial misconduct, favoritism, Julian's history of exploiting relationships. The audio clip, Clara's voice confessing her devotion, was embedded, looping silently on screens. Clara noticed the shift, her smile faltering. "What's going on?" she whispered, grabbing my arm. I shrugged, feigning confusion. "No idea, love." The investor packets landed next. A prominent patron, mid-conversation, opened an envelope, photos spilling out. Gasps followed as he passed them around. Clara's face drained of color as she saw herself, kissing Julian, laughing in his loft. She turned to me, eyes wide with panic. "Daniel, I can explain." I stepped back, my expression cold. "Don't," I said, loud enough for nearby guests to hear. Julian tried to approach, but the crowd parted, isolating him. The gallery felt like a stage, Clara and Julian the doomed players. Critics typed furiously, investors murmured about pulling funds, and the gallery director cornered Clara, demanding answers. I watched, detached, as her world collapsed. My revenge was surgical, public, and absolute. She'd thought she could hide. I'd made her the centerpiece of her own disgrace. The night wasn't over, but my work was done. I turned to leave, the crowd's whispers a symphony of her ruin. I left the gallery, the cool night air a balm against my rage. Clara didn't follow. She was trapped, fielding accusations, her career in tatters. I drove home, the city a blur, my mind replaying her shocked face. The pain of her betrayal lingered, but it was overshadowed by a grim satisfaction. I dismantled her life as she'd dismantled mine. The exhibition was her peak. Now it was her pyre. At home I packed a bag. I wouldn't stay in the house we'd built, its walls tainted by her lies. My phone buzzed. Clara. Calling. Texting. Please, let me explain. I ignored her. Lila sent a message. Stories gone viral. Galleries done. I didn't reply. The art world was a small pond. Clara's name was poisoned now, Julian's too. Investors pulled funding, critics savaged his work, and rumors swirled of legal probes. I checked the tracker one last time. Clara was still at the gallery, likely pleading her case. I imagined her tears, her desperation, and felt nothing. She'd chosen Julian, chosen deceit, and I'd ensured she'd pay. My revenge wasn't just about exposure. It was about stripping her identity, curator, wife, woman of grace. She was none of those now. I booked a hotel, my new base to rebuild. The plan wasn't complete. I'd ensure Clara's fall was permanent. I'd sell the house, cut ties, and let her drown in the wreckage. Julian would face his own reckoning, creditors, lawsuits, obscurity. I wasn't done, but tonight I'd won. As I checked into the hotel, the city skyline glowed, indifferent to the war I'd waged. I was free, and Clara was caged by her own lies. The hotel room was sterile, a stark contrast to the home I'd left behind. I, Daniel, sat by the window, Seattle's skyline a distant glow. Clara's texts had stopped, replaced by voicemails I didn't play. The news was relentless. Lila's article had spread beyond the art world, picked up by local blogs, then national outlets. Gallery scandal rocks Seattle screamed one headline. Clara's name synonymous with deceit, Julian's with fraud. I scrolled through the fallout on my laptop, each update a validation of my work. I wasn't done. My revenge needed permanence. I contacted a lawyer, drafting papers to sell our house and freeze our joint accounts. Clara would return to a shell of her life, her financial security gone. I also tipped off Julian's creditors, anonymously, about his unstable ventures. His debts were mounting, his loft already listed for sale. The art world had turned on him, his paintings unsold, his name a cautionary tale. Clara tried to reach me through mutual friends. She's a mess, one said. She says it was a mistake. I didn't respond. Her mistakes were choices, each one a betrayal of the life we'd built. I pictured her in our glass house, alone, the walls reflecting her shame. My tracker app, still active, showed her at the gallery, then Julian's loft, then a bar. She was spiraling, and I felt no pity. I met Marco for coffee, thanking him for his digital wizardry. He warned me about blowback. Clara might sue, Julian might retaliate. I shrugged. Let them try. My evidence was ironclad, my tracks covered. Marco grinned, calling me ruthless. I didn't disagree. The man who'd loved Clara was gone, replaced by one who thrived on justice. My next step was ensuring her professional exile. I sent anonymized tips to art boards, suggesting audits of her past exhibitions. Her career, her identity would be ash. As I walked back to the hotel, the rain mirrored my mood, cold, unyielding. Clara had thought she could live two lives, but I'd erased one. The other, her true self, was exposed, raw, and broken. I wasn't celebrating, but I wasn't mourning. This was balance, a ledger squared. The final act awaited, and I'd deliver it with the precision of an architect's blueprint. A week passed, and the city moved on, but Clara's world was frozen in ruin. The gallery fired her, citing reputational damage. Investors sued, alleging fraud. Julian's show was canceled, his paintings pulled from auctions. I followed the chaos from my hotel, a silent observer. My lawyer finalized the house sale. Clara would get her share, but it'd be tied up in legal battles I'd orchestrated. She was homeless in her own life, and I was the architect of her exile. She finally confronted me, showing up at the hotel lobby, her eyes red, her jasmine scent faint. "Daniel, please," she begged, her voice cracking. "I didn't mean to hurt you." I stared, unmoved. "You didn't hurt me," I said. "You erased me." Her tears came, but they were meaningless, a performance too late. I told her the house was sold, our accounts frozen. She gasped, clutching her purse. "Where will I go?" she whispered. I shrugged. "Ask Julian." She left, defeated, and I felt a hollow pang. Not regret, but an echo of the love I'd buried. I drowned it in work, designing a new project. A tower stark and unyielding, like my resolve. Friends reached out, shocked by the scandal, but I kept them at arm's length. This was my war, fought alone. Clara's betrayal had isolated me, but it had also freed me. I was no longer tethered to her lies. I tracked her movements one last time. She'd moved into a cheap apartment, her car repossessed. Julian was gone, rumored to have fled to Europe, dodging creditors. I didn't care about him, he was a symptom, not the disease. Clara was the heart of my pain, and I'd cut her out. I deactivated the tracker. Its purpose served. My revenge was nearly complete, but one final stroke remained. A public reminder of her fall, etched in the city's memory. I slept fitfully, dreaming of our old life, Clara's laugh, our road trips. The dreams weren't nostalgia. They were warnings. I'd won, but at a cost. My heart was a fortress now, impregnable but empty. Tomorrow, I'd finish this, ensuring Clara's name stayed synonymous with shame. The victory was mine, but it tasted like ash. I needed one last act to seal Clara's fate, something that would linger like a scar. The art world was fickle, prone to forgetting scandals, but I'd make hers unforgettable. I contacted a street artist, a reclusive genius known for provocative murals. Anonymously, I commissioned a piece on a prominent downtown wall, offering a generous sum. The concept was simple. A faceless woman, her hands stained with paint, standing over a shattered canvas labeled Trust. The artist didn't need names. The imagery would speak for itself. The mural went up overnight, unveiled to morning commuters. By noon, social media exploded. "Is this about the gallery scandal?" one post asked, linking Lila's article. The city connected the dots. Clara's face wasn't depicted, but her story was. Art blogs debated the mural's meaning, cementing her infamy. I drove by, the woman's hollow eyes staring from the wall. It was perfect, a monument to her betrayal, visible to all. Clara called, her voice a rasp. "Did you do this?" she demanded. I didn't deny it. "You painted your own ruin," I said, hanging up. She'd see the mural daily, a reminder of her choices. Julian, I learned, had been blacklisted by galleries, his career dead. My tips to creditors had worked. He was bankrupt, his charm useless. I felt no joy, only closure. Their world was gone, and I'd built the pyre. I started a new life, leasing an apartment, focusing on my tower project. Colleagues noticed my edge, my designs sharper, more daring. Clara's betrayal had forged me, stripping away naivety. I didn't date, didn't trust. That part of me was locked away. Friends invited me out, but I preferred solitude, sketching late into the night. The city was my canvas now, and I'd leave my mark without her. The mural's impact lingered. Tourists photographed it, locals debated its origins. Clara's name became a verb in art circles. To pull a Clara meant to betray trust spectacularly. I didn't gloat. I'd done enough. My revenge was complete, a masterpiece of pain and precision. I was free, but the cost was a piece of my soul. Months passed, and Seattle forgot Clara, but the mural remained, weathered but defiant. I thrived, my tower project earning accolades, my name rising in architectural circles. Yet solitude was my companion. I'd won, but victory was a cold bedfellow. Clara's betrayal had taught me vigilance, and I guarded my heart like a vault. I didn't miss her, but I missed who I'd been: open, trusting, whole. I heard Clara had left the city, taking a low-level job at a small-town museum. Her LinkedIn was barren, her reputation unrecoverable. Julian surfaced in Paris, painting under a pseudonym, his work ignored. Their lives were shadows, and I was the eclipse. I sold our wedding photos, donated her clothes, erased her from my world. The house sale finalized, and I invested my share, building a future without her. One evening, Lila invited me for drinks. She'd won an award for her exposé, unaware of my role. "You doing okay?" she asked, sensing my distance. I nodded, sipping my whiskey. "Better than ever," I lied. The truth was messier. I was free but haunted, my revenge a double-edged sword. I'd destroyed Clara, but the act had carved me hollow. I visited the mural, its colors fading. A new artist had added a detail. A man's silhouette, watching the woman, his face unreadable. Felt like me, a ghost of judgment. I didn't regret my actions, but I wondered if I'd gone too far. The thought passed. Clara had chosen her path, and I'd chosen mine. I walked away, the city alive around me, my steps lighter but my heart heavy. I was rebuilding brick by brick, but some wounds never heal. My tower would rise, a testament to my strength, but it'd stand alone, like me. The war was over and I'd survived. That was enough for now. A year later, I stood on the site of my completed tower, its glass spire piercing the Seattle sky. The ribbon cutting was tomorrow, my name in headlines for creation, not destruction. I'd moved on, or so I told myself. My apartment was sparse, my life streamlined: work, gym, the occasional beer with Marco. Trust was a luxury I couldn't afford, but I was content or close to it. Clara was a memory, her name rarely mentioned. The mural had been painted over, replaced by a coffee ad, her infamy fading. I heard she'd remarried, a quiet man in Oregon, her life small but stable. Julian was a footnote, his art forgotten. I didn't check, they were irrelevant. My revenge had been a fire, consuming them, but I'd walked through the flames unscathed, or so I thought. At the tower's opening, Lila was there, her smile warm. "You've built something incredible," she said, gesturing to the spire. I nodded, but her eyes lingered, searching. "You ever think about her?" she asked. I shrugged. "She's gone." It was true, but Clara's shadow lingered in my distrust, my solitude. Lila touched my arm, a question in her gaze, but I stepped back. I wasn't ready, maybe never would be. That night, I stood on my balcony, the city sprawling below. My tower glowed, a beacon of my triumph. I destroyed Clara's world, rebuilt my own, but the cost was a heart armored against love. I didn't regret it. She'd betrayed me and I'd balanced the scales. Yet, as the wind carried the city's hum, I wondered if I could open that armor, just a crack. I poured a whiskey, toasting the horizon. The past was ash, the future unwritten. I'd survived Clara, survived myself. The tower was my proof, but the man who'd built it was still searching. For peace, for trust, for a life beyond revenge. I'd find it one day. For now, I was Daniel, architect of my own fate, standing tall in a world I'd reshaped. The stars blinked above, and I was ready to begin again.